We're live.
We're live.
Woo! Hey everybody, who we got in here? We got Brett, Bill, and Dude Jude. We got Brickman. Maddie shows up here at the last minute. As you probably are like, what's going on? Why is Troubles Bricking yammering on like a talking monkey in the beginning of the show when there's no Julian and there's no Fazoom? Because Fazoom and Julian, well, Julian specifically, I don't think he's going to join us at all. Fazoom is running late. He may or may not have seen the show, so he is probably going to be pulling a Jeff on us and saying, well, I didn't see the show, but I'm going to talk about it. But we do have some people with us here this evening. We've got Shane, Strawberries, Matt Brickmadden, Matthew with his lightning strikes twice and his stupid hockey Canadian sports biscuit talk, whatever. And, of course, Old Gray Bix, Fleet North in the house. So, all right. So, Lego Masters Season 2, Episode 5 this evening?
Who's counting? Yes.
Was it 4? No, I think it was 5. I think it was 5. It's Episode 5.
Because the judges mentioned 5 when they were talking to one of the contestants.
Yes. So, Episode 5. So, we're down. We're getting to where it's no longer the gimme rounds anymore. There's no surviving. You've got to show your stuff or you're going home. And because I know there was some talk about, I was watching the Australian show, and I know you guys have watched the Australian show, and one of the contestants was like, all we got to do is just, survive for the first couple episodes, and then, then we can start getting creative and stuff like that. Well, I think that's where we're at now, is that you can't just slide by anymore. You've got to be doing your stuff or you're going home. So tonight's episode, what was hanging by a brick? I guess was it the official phrase? I think something along those lines. So was it a 1x10 or a 1x16 Technic?
It looked like I thought it was a 1x12.
Yeah, 1x12.
Yeah.
All right, so 1x12 Technic brick hanging by some wire, and then they had to build something big to come off of it.
And it doesn't look like in this episode they had you had to meet this criteria like they had with the hat.
Right, because there was no size requirement.
Yeah.
So,
but they did say build down.
Balanced. I think they had to build balanced.
Oh, maybe it was misheard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because I mean, a lot of them built up and down. I don't think it was just a down thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Jack and the Beanstalk actually went forward, up, down, and to the left and the right. So I got to say that I don't know. Do we want to talk about the winners, the losers, or just go through the scenario first, or whatever we do? Maddie, what you got? You go ahead and throw it out.
I wanted to talk about the losers and the fact that last week we made this prediction.
Yes.
That they would be Mexico had theirs not made it down the runway. Laura might still be there, but
I would say is it Brandon and I forget his sister's name, Jermaine. I think.
I don't know.
I think I'm horrible with names, so I should really take notes on things like that.
It was such a cute idea. It was just the execution. They could have gone they could have even brought in some Johnny Thunder adventures and put nets on the balloon or something like that. But
absolutely.
It was just.
They could have built the balloon like Moto did. Right?
It could have been, ball joint Technic all around kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's the technical term in the community a Lowell sphere? Is that what they referred to? The ball? I thought.
Yeah, Bruce Lowell. He designed a system to make spheres. So
okay. Because to me, I mean, it looked like they were kind of going with that concept, but then they did their own thing, and it just didn't really have the feel and the shape that you would have thought.
They used 2x bricks. Didn't you see that? So it was very, very bulky, kind of like your Pikachu build. It was just, but it wasn't even as shapely as the Pikachu. It was
right. I mean, that's just it. I mean, it's not the fact that they used 2x4 bricks to build it. They just they kept too much straightness to it to kind of give it that flat-sided look instead of giving it the curvature that you would expect on the top and the sloping down that you would think towards the bottom of a balloon.
And honest, they might have gotten away with the blockiness of it if they had 8 colors and they twirled as it came around. That might have really made it pop. But the sort of so color choice, the blockiness, to me, I was sitting at home saying, well, I don't think it's hard at all to know who should go home this week. It's not hard. I thought the top was really tough. I could see 4 different people winning, to be honest.
Well, so now let's finish on the bottom first, and then we'll go to the top.
The plant basket was so cute. I could have totally seen that being an idea set. Like, you know, like we've got all these plant sets now, like that.
Now I know that the judges dinged them for having too much detail that you couldn't see because it was hidden, and so I could kind of see that. But that was not a reason to put them in the bottom 2. And if anything, I thought Susan and Jen's tree should have been in the bottom 2. And I think they're great builders. I think they fell this week and really could have been in the bottom 2 instead.
Yeah. No, that was my feeling as well. I thought kind of because they left like the back of it all empty, that they were going to be in the bottom 2.
And then they could have done more with the branches on the tree because it was really just kind of a blob on the top and very cylindrical down the sides.
Yeah.
I would have expected more from them. And I thought the hanging basket was much more creative.
They were holding it. When he was being judged, they were holding it so it would stay front forward instead of spin around.
Right.
Yeah, and I was like, that's cheating.
The hanging basket, it reinforces that to win on this show, you really need to do large sculptures.
Here we go, Mark and Steven. Welcome to the show. Woo! All right. We've been talking about the bottom. We've been talking about the bottom 2, and now that you guys have joined the stream, we will talk about the top 2. And if you want to mute us, it's fine because you might blush, you might do a little bit of this. But there we go. Perfect timing, Mark. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. I chat with
What are you people doing in my room? Get out of here! Why are you
Hey, old man, don't make me kick you to the curb. I'm starting this show. You're let me finish
down there. What are y'all doing in my room? We're gonna Brady Bunch them in the center.
There we go. So Mark and Chris and Matthew and I, we have an ongoing IM session that never ceases to end. And when they were going through the lineup and they hit Mark and Steven, and I called it. I'm like, boom, golden brick right there. I don't care what that whale looks like. I don't care what the tentacles may look kind of cool. That whale was a little bit blocky. It was blocky.
I love the whale. I'm not gonna lie.
I thought it was blocky. I thought for those guys to have some of the things they've done in the past, to have chinsed on the shape of the whale, they could have gone a little more. I mean, the octopus or the squid was fantastic. I think that was fantastic, but their whale was still a little blocky.
But that's impressive. They built that in that amount of time, and it was that big, and they had a whole inner support system that actually looked like ribs.
I am not discounting their building quality in any way, shape, or form. Everybody built things that were large and balanced and keeping things the way they were. And at this point, and Mark and Steven, you may or may not want to chime in on this, it's going to be down to the details going from here on forward. These are all excellent builders. I mean, they wouldn't get on the show in the first place. They wouldn't have gotten this far. They wouldn't have gotten through the milk runs in the beginning to get to this point. And then just to phone in a piece of it. I mean, you've got to have everything locked in. I mean, the judges were criticizing, the gals were saying that they had too much detail that you couldn't see everything. I mean, that's it. It's all about the criticality, all about the details. All right, that's my 2 cents. Somebody else, thoughts on top 2 or somebody who should have been in the top 2 who wasn't in the top 2?
I actually have a question, not so much about the top 2, but it seemed this week nobody really was suffered from time management. Now, was that just the editing of the show? And they just, didn't.
I'm trying to remember. It was all kind of a blur, honestly.
Okay.
But let me think.
So
I think it's pretty good.
Everyone was able to accomplish their goal, but some people were still feeling the pressure of just having only 10 hours to go. So
short time.
I think Jen and Susan would have liked to do more. I think Randall and Sarita would have liked to add more details, but they just chose a very big volume to build. And then Natalie Michelle also, I think they got everything they wanted done, but they didn't really think about how you're seeing it and how 360 it was. And
maybe not
got
quite
them.
stand back enough to take a good look
Yeah,
at it.
because
Possibly.
They were too close to the trees.
what was that?
They were too close to the trees. They couldn't see it. Couldn't
Yeah.
see the forest quite right.
That was,
Exactly.
that was a dad joke, right?
Well, I mean,
If you did look close, though, they had some really cool little details. It was honestly a pretty nice build.
yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, and it's funny because, you know, they were, I mean, they made that look like macrame. I mean, it really looked like, I mean, I grew up with hanging plants in my mom's, I mean, I used to think that I could like swing like Tarzan through my apartment growing up because my mom had so many hanging plants going on. So, I mean, I recognize, I mean, it looked like a macrame hanger, hands down. The tree, the plant looked fantastic, but then you couldn't really see what was going on very well. Where in comparison, say like yours and Zach and his brother, you had enough to where you could see what was going on. You didn't have to be up real close to get the details and know that there was something else going on. So, you know, again, nitpicky details. I
think the one thing that stood out for me as far as what the judges were looking for, and this could just be my interpretation of it, but they mentioned in the beginning that they like size is great, but then they're like 360 is really important. And so not everyone took that into account. You have Jen and Susan have their story only from one side of the tree. You have Natalie Michelle. Their fairy was actually on the back side of the build because they built from their perspective. They didn't think about what the back side of that plant looks like.
Yeah,
necessarily. So it's like the story was only visible from one point. It's like we had a gnome on every side, you know. It's like, and then Zach and Wayne's build only looks bad from the back. Every other side, it looks amazing, you know. So it's like, and then Caleb and Jacob were also.
Caleb and Maria, they had a great 360.
Caleb and Maria had a 360 turtle. Caleb and Jacob had 360 islands too. So it's like some of the teams that were doing better this round were thinking about the entire perspective. And they also mentioned below and above, and I think Maria and Frank got docked on the coral being below there because they didn't have anything else beneath the turtle.
And you know what the funny thing is that when I was watching the turtle, and I thought the turtle idea was fantastic because I mean that's an anime home run kind of thing, you know, Discord or whatever you're going to talk about it, isn't it? But what really kind of struck me is that it didn't feel like coral. It felt like more like the bottom of that turtle had been gutted. And it
like
was
the thing went through him.
Yeah, I mean, it was just they slammed that castle in, and it bursted through the bottom of that turtle, and that was the bottom of the turtle coming out. And I couldn't stop seeing it. I'm like, I mean, even if I know coral was a pinkish color, and you could do that, but it just felt like turtle soup coming out the bottom of that thing.
Now it's great in person.
I'm sure. I mean, it's still an impressive build. I mean, the turtle alone was fantastic. The castle or the what they had on top was fantastic. It just the representation of the coral distracted from me. Otherwise, it was fantastic. Brian and Lauren, they kind of let me down this week. I felt like they kind of phoned it in, and I mean, and as I was saying, this is not a phone in time frame. You gotta hit it on all cylinders.
Which build was theirs?
Theirs was the two princesses with the rainbow underneath and the sun.
I'm going to disagree with you, and you're just wrong because they had the best use of color of anyone that night.
Color. Was color a criteria?
No, but just for me, I care.
It is for you.
It's bonus point.
And to get a shape that's diagonal and to mix in 8 colors and have it meet up, and you know, because I work with color, I care a lot about color. But when I'm building something, if I'm like, oh, it doesn't quite work out, I have the time, the luxury to take it apart and move it one brick down or one plate over, or whatever. They didn't, so they had to nail the colors as they were building the structure. So they had to combine 2 different skill sets at the same time, which I don't always do it well
now,
the first time. You know, like I rebuild stuff all the time.
I'm sorry, Joel's mom is talking trash right now.
Oh yeah. James even mentioned the fact that there's no coral in Lake Michigan, which again, there's also no sea turtles in Lake Michigan, but that's a whole other point.
Sorry. Matt, go ahead. You were making an excellent point.
Matt had his chance. Matt had his chance.
Their color was outstanding, and their clouds were pretty good. I mean, I honestly had them in my top 3. And that's how much I like their build. So.
See, for me, when I saw that, I thought the colors were great. I mean, it was visually appealing, but I lost the story. I lost the details. I felt like there could have been more pizzazz to it in some way, shape, or form. I think even Jamie said something that they could have done more with the princesses and give them more feeling, more spectacularness. I mean, if they had made those a little more brick built and gave them actual arms and some stuff, or just to make them pop a little more. I mean, I watched Boone's episode with them on Victoria's, and they showed that they had done a Beauty and the Beast build, and they had done, I hate to say this, very similar to what they did for this competition. So they went with their strengths, they knew what they were doing, so that's fine. But even their brick built Beauty and Beast, which they each did, or one of them did those, were much more entertaining. And that I thought that they could have done more with that portion of it to give it that little more pop. I mean, it was so close. It was so close. I'm being critical.
Well, just two words.
Those are fair points, but you're still wrong.
So
What was that, Keith?
I said 2 words. Light bricks.
Light bricks. That would have been something else.
That would have helped.
Yeah.
Well, something, just to say something, comparing like the moms, Jen and Susan's balloons to the balloons that eventually lost. When you look at those, even though they were small, they were built with Lowell sphere. You got that skill set built in.
Right.
You don't have that skill set built in, then you build basic bricks, and that comes back to bite you, especially if you're trying to build big. So it's interesting to see those levels of pre-programmed skill sets start to blossom out, and those who may not have that or haven't done that technique, which is a good quick technique to make something impressive, you then start to see that becomes something that weeds out some teams, I think, early. And unfortunately, I think that did tonight. I think the size of that balloon definitely got to them and everything. And in my opinion, we haven't got to the bottom 2 yet. I think the moms should have been.
Actually, we talked about the bottom 2 before you showed up, so I'm sorry.
Okay, well then fine. That's fine.
If you had showed up on time, you would understand that we already talked about the Lowell sphere, and we already talked about the bottom 2. If you could show up on time next time, that'd be great.
Get out of my room.
All right, Chris, we'll go back and let you talk about the bottom 2.
It's fine. I'm glad y'all did.
I have a broad disclaimer for all the teams.
I know exactly what he's going to say.
If you watch this episode again and just look at each contestant's eyes,
Just look at our eyes,
you'll realize they look like they have not slept in a few days.
which we hadn't.
And they because none of us had. And we hadn't had enough to eat or drink.
It was really, really brutal.
So it was
We were
just
so.
if you look at everyone looks like they're either like really high or really drunk or just all, like really like
We were so sleep deprived.
take a closer look. I mean, I'm tired right now.
Give us the details. Why were you all sleep deprived?
Yeah.
Because of our schedule.
The schedule is
was
intense.
so crazy.
Yeah,
we were
it's-
getting up super early and getting off super late.
17 and 18-hour days were pretty consistent. So it
Moto-
was,
Was that a one-day
said-
build?
Oh, it's
that
10 hours.
one.
Yeah.
I don't remember in particular.
That was a shorter one because the judging took very little time.
I'm pretty sure that was a one-day build because it would have been like a 5-hour
I
section.
just went a half day, but I'm not 100% sure. No, it was one day. It was one day. Holy cow.
Pretty sure it was a day.
But I want to say one thing real quick. In defense of my Lego Masters family, everyone had a really cool idea. Like everyone had a really cool inspiration. Some people have struggled to interpret that. Fair enough. People go home. That's how the show works. But you know what? I think everyone really, really hit it out of the park. There wasn't really a build that stood out to me as like, oh, what's wrong with that? No, it was like, okay,
Mark, we are totally 9 o'clock armchairing this whole thing.
Oh yeah, no.
For sure.
They're being
Armchairing this.
yeah, I know it's totally fair, but
And
I'm
being
like,
totally
it's a
critical.
lot thing. I just want them to know, like, everyone really had something.
No. I mean, as I said, all of these people are fantastic builders. They wouldn't have gotten this far if they weren't.
That's
Hands
right,
down.
and that wasn't meant as shade. That meant as you when you get on autopilot, it depends on what instruments you have on autopilot.
Yeah.
If you know how to make a Lowell sphere just by breathing, then you can then pop that out and everything. If you don't, then that's going to be a struggle, especially if you're tired, especially if you are whatever. You can if I had to build a castle when I'm tired, it's going to be even worse than it would be regular. If I had to build a spaceship when I'm tired, it would be okay because I know how to do that. That is in my basket of knowledge and almost autopilot. You know.
So now I don't want to take away from having Mark and Steven here, but one of the things that I love that Julian normally tries to do when we do the show is, what would you have built? So Chris, what would you have built hanging? And I have a completely different opinion on this. So if we had been team members, we would have clashed on this. So tell me what you would have pitched for your build.
Well, number one, did anybody watch Australia? Did somebody build a whale in Australia? I want to think they did, but I'm not saying they were copying anything. I think it was a great idea.
Yeah.
But I was going to build the tornado, make a hanging structure, and then have a whirling thing with either the straps, if there were dot straps there. I was thinking about using that, or using the
dot straps.
The dot straps, right? Or the ball joints to make a swirl, and then from the external structure have things where it was jutting out. So that's debris. And then the base would be the town being destroyed, a miniature, and then the house would have been on top, and that hopefully would have tried to counterbalance that. So it looks like the tornado is ripping up and has picked up a house on the top. That would have been my idea.
There would have to be a brick-built cow or two in there, and a brick-built combine for sure. If I could throw some flying monkeys in there, totally.
So one problem with that is, and I love that idea. I think that'd be a really
down, Mr. Golden Brick. Go ahead.
We were not allowed to show scenes of violence or natural disaster at all. So at all, like you do that, you're off the show.
So
I want violence
off the show. Off the show.
That was the same for the earthquake challenge.
Same for the earthquake challenge. We actually kind of towed the line a little bit with the Atlantis theme. So
they were like, ooh, careful, because they don't want to have any like natural disasters.
They didn't want. They don't want to bring back memories for people who have gone through that.
Exactly.
There was
PTSD on Lego Master Season 2. All right.
There was an episode where y'all blew crap up. I just want to point that out.
I know. I don't think just saying.
Lego IEDs, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
y'all put explosive devices in Lego, and we watched them blow up.
That was the fire department.
So I was sitting at home, and much like Chris, I said, if someone incorporated motion, I think that would be amazing. So I didn't really have a fully fleshed out idea, but I think I would have tried to take something at like a diorama that would rotate. And have stuff hanging off, but keeping it balanced would have been huge.
Ooh, a mobile. A mobile would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, like not a diorama. A mobile,
and Zach and or not Zach, the brothers, the twins, they had the windmill turning, which I thought was very nice. Yeah. That was a nice touch.
Those copycats.
But
I know. Such drama. Right. Shane, what about you, man? Have you got you've been quiet, so I'm going to pick on you. What would you have chosen as an idea?
I'm not sure. I always get stuck with trying to think of ideas. Get stuck.
All right, help the brother out. Give us what you would have done.
Who are you asking?
Keith.
Me. All right.
You.
I would have done, I think, an airplane, maybe like a biplane.
Ooh. Oh.
You know, it could have some clouds underneath it or something like that, where it's flying above the clouds, and maybe motorize the propeller somehow or something.
I like that. Or maybe like a couple of planes doing like a Sop with Camel fight, something like. But again, violence,
no war.
Yeah, no war. So maybe just one plane, just maybe Amelia Earhart.
Ooh.
Kind of cool. All right, Mark, Steven, we know what you would have done. Floating, yeah, whatever.
You would have copied those other guys and made floating islands.
I think even Mark pointed out during the little side interview that Steven had kind of popularized the floating island scenarios. So
I did not.
I knew you guys were going to do what you were going to do before I even saw what was going on. I'm like, yeah, they're doing this. They're doing floating castles.
It was his idea. I was worried it was going to be a cliche.
Sometimes cliches have to happen.
They're great at floating
That's why they exist.
Cliches happen twice apparently in the same.
So the floating castle. I have one question about the twins build, and how was there technique inside the waterfall that was supporting that? Because when they started talking about that, I was just like, that could fall apart if it's not done correctly, and hopefully they know what they're doing. But it looked fine. It looked like it was maybe gravity was maybe pulling it in just a little bit, but it was pretty straight up and down, which I was frankly impressed.
I think it was mostly plates. And then those plates then kind of made like an L into the.
Wasn't it mounted on Technic?
Where it was mounted was Technic, but it was basically plates making an L shape, like kind of like a waterfall shape. Okay. And from there, it just went straight down. So yeah,
a lot of backstory between us and them.
We can get into that later
in a second. You guys
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So, Matthew, what would you have conceptualized to build?
I was thinking like a dream bubble.
A dream bubble.
Yeah. So instead of not like a cloud, but like a hollow dream bubble with some kind of dreamland in the middle. Probably, I was, I don't know what the dream in the inside would be, but when I saw that, I was like, this would be really cool to do like a floating dream, like the dream bubbles, but it's like hollow in the middle, but the outside has a few things or a few hidden gems. But like I don't know what.
Tournament.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Like an elaborate Christmas ornament almost.
Yeah, like a or like those sugar eggs
like
you
a
found on
bubble.
Easter, and you can it's like sliced down, and you can see inside, like something like that.
I like it. I'd actually said Matthew instead of Maddie, but I don't mind trumping Matthew for Maddie because I like the dream bubble scenario.
Maddie's so much cooler.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said Maddie.
No.
I already gave my idea.
Well, refresh me. That was so 30 seconds ago. I've already forgotten. What was your idea that you would have done?
Mobile thing.
I wanted a rotating mobile.
Oh, that's right. A mobile. You're right. You did talk about that.
Well, I wanted a tornado. I would have had a mobile home. That would have been close. Right?
Even though all of the Midwest would have been having flashbacks to, Twister, and it would have been horrible. So
Waffle House on the other side of that. I mean, awesome, man. Come on.
All right, Mr. Chatterbox down in the corner. Mark, what would you have conceptualized?
You didn't watch the show.
I was not prepared.
I feel like I'm talking to Corbin Dallas in The Fifth Element, and I'm Ruby Rao. I go, Mark, what you got?
I am a meat popsicle. I haven't been able to watch the show. You guys know I don't get Fox.
That's right. You're playing the role of Jeff this evening. That's fine. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the drama this evening. We've already kind of alluded to it. So where was more of the rivalry on this one, between you and the Twins, or you and Zach and Wayne?
So for a long time, Zach and Wayne's build didn't look as impressive as it did in the final run. So it was the last maybe hour that had all the really cool details to put all the options. We didn't have the vision they had. We didn't really notice it as much, although we knew it was going to be big.
Right.
But like 1 hour into it, we still don't know who came up with the idea first, because it was all kind of a blur. It's so quick. The first 30 minutes goes by like that. And we were like, well, we're building. Mark's like, floating island. I'm like, oh, okay, floating island. So we get started. It's turning out pretty good. We're a little nervous because Amy and Jamie actually hit us with like, no exposed plates this time. Look at you two, Mark and Steven, because they were mad about our hat having exposed plates. They didn't show that, but it's really good stuff. But not even an hour in, right? And we look over, and then we like lock eyes with Caleb and Jacob. We like locked eyes with them, and they like, we got this cone shape thing going on, and we got a cone shape thing. We're like, they build castle. I think they're doing a floating island.
I actually marched right over there. I'm like, you're building a floating island, aren't you? And he's like, yeah. So I'm like, yeah, we're building with you. Like, yeah, I know. And,
how's it going to play out? We don't know.
Did the judges, they didn't give you any, because normally it's been like in the past, it was like, hey, you're building a rat and you're building a rat. Don't both build a rat. And so did they tag either one of you to say, hey, change your build or anything?
No. What's interesting is for this challenge, we could really build just whatever we wanted. They told us, build whatever you want. And we're like, holy cow, freedom. So we just built what we wanted. However, they weren't going to let this opportunity go by. So it was Will who, like, how far into it? Was 3 hours in? 2 hours in?
It was a little
maybe
further
maybe 2 hours. I don't know, because we still had half of it, sort of, half of the island build itself. But Will comes up to Caleb and Jacob, and as you saw, he's like, Jacob, call him out. And then Jacob, he was as quiet as a church mouse. He didn't say hardly anything. He was super quiet, but really funny guy. He's like, what are you guys doing? And Mark's like, oh, you are. Like, Mark immediately picks up on it, and I'm shouting over there, "You want to go, bro? You want to go 4 eyes?" We start yelling. They cut that out. But we were like going, "Yeah, tall boy!" We're like yelling as childish insults as we can, and we go for about 5 minutes flat. It wasn't 30 seconds that you saw. And
I want outtakes.
Yeah.
This is why Philip and Maria didn't have much screen time, because their interview with Amy and Jamie was totally interrupted by us and Will and Jacob completely shouting over them. Jamie was trying to talk to you and be like screaming at each other. And then it was great because just like Philip is like he's like loving it, but also getting annoyed. Paul Phillip, you guys hardly seen him on screen, but he's a really funny guy. And he shouted, "Hey, be quiet over there!" He's got this dad voice. And we're trying to have an interview. Us young guys were like, "Oh, whoa!" And then Will screams. This is the best line. He said, "You started it, Philip!" It was so much fun.
That's why we need some more of that on the DVD.
That's why I said it was exhausting, because it's like, us 30 seconds. No, it was like 5 minutes, and we were screaming across a noisy hallway. Oh, it was amazing.
And it carries on.
Yes,
throughout.
Yes, you saw the trailer.
In the next episode, you've got we're all building, it looks like, vehicles, and Caleb is like, "You're all going down, especially Mark and Steven." You're like, "Yeah."
I hope they add that to the audio for next week. I hope they do.
I think so. We'll see.
So now, if I can't remember, were you guys up for the top 2 spots on an earlier episode?
First one.
The first one.
First one, because it was you and Wayne and Zach, and so it was like the sequel this evening.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, how did that? I mean, all right, we're going to dive in with you guys on this one because you're here and I can focus on you, and because the rest of these guys they're useless at this point. I'm kidding. So I mean, how did that moment feel? I mean, were you guys thinking you got this? Were you thinking, oh no, here it is, Zach and Wayne are pulling it out of the ropes again? What was going on?
Yeah, so we had done pretty well on the hat challenge. We felt like we were like in the conversation, contending, back in the swing of things. So this one we're like, instead they mentioned going big, and they mentioned 360, and they mentioned color story of Amy, and then so we're like, we're not going to worry about going big, because there's Zach and Wayne are going to go big, and I felt like Caleb and Jacob wanted to go big too, and it's like Philip and Maria look like we're going to go big. We could try and compete that way, but then we're going to lose some of our best skills, which are more detailed stuff. We're very detailed when we build our creations, so I'm like, let's just build as big as we want to, and then just make a really nice build. And we know how to make 360. We've gone to conventions. So we knew exactly how the layout should be, composition. Mm-hmm. And so when we were building, we pushed our table a little out of the way, and we were walking all around the building and looking at it from all angles. So I think that was our real strength in this challenge. And so going in facing Zach and Wayne again for the second time, we felt really good about being on the detailed story, color. We had a lot of color.
A lot of tricks up our sleeves.
Big leaves and stuff. It was pretty interesting. At the same time, it was dwarfed. Our build was not small. It was like the size of a mini Christmas tree. But theirs was like literally 5 feet long.
Yeah, your arms span.
And so it's like it's basically volume versus detail, and like a really good composition versus a gigantic awesome whale. And it's like, for me, it was like 50-50. We did good. Like I feel like we'll be in the top 2 or near the top 2. And we ended up they chose us this time. I almost think because they didn't want to have Zach and Wayne win it again.
I don't think so.
You think it was a pity vote?
No. This is a rare time, speaking of the episodes we've had, that I think I felt more confident than you, because it started out a little rushed. Not rushed, a little nervous. We were a little bit like, oh, they got eyes on us, So for me anyway, we were building, and every single detail that went on just worked better and better and better, and it just got nicer and nicer and more fun. And there were some other hiccups too, we were going to do fairies at first, but then Michelle and Natalie were doing fairies, and Will told us that. We're like, we're doing bugs. A bug bar. We'll do bugs. Yes, who's doing bugs?
Supposed to be fairies and gnomes originally?
What's that?
So it was supposed to be fairies and gnomes originally, or
just fairies? We were going to do something completely new, because Amy and Jamie really they really challenged us to really have fun with our creativity, and that's
Right.
when we really took it to heart. So like we're gonna do something totally different. We're gonna do fairies. Somebody else is doing fairies. We're gonna do bugs. Somebody else is doing bugs. So
Jacob went
Jacob
doing bugs.
Like, holy cow, we're copying again. So we decided to do gnomes, and we stuck with that. Mark's like, we're doing gnomes. I'm like, okay, we're doing gnomes. So
Oh, you know what? You just mentioned the fact that the bugs on theirs using the capes for wings. That one hit me right out of the bark when I saw that. I was like, that was a fantastic idea.
Very smart.
Putting that into my little toolbox for if I ever need to do bugs. Capes for wings was fantastic.
It was smart. But yeah, when we got up there, Amy, I knew this part. I knew this part. I knew we were going to win this one because Amy said, this is the sort of build that really excites me. I'm like, bingo. We got Amy's book. And Amy really loved it too. He loved, the only critique he found was that there was a white butterfly near a white building, a little too much white, but that was it. I'm like, okay, if that's your best shot, then you love it.
If that's his worst comment for you on that build, you're doing well.
Going in, wrapping up a long story short, going in, I really felt like, I think we got this. And you know what? We did.
Turned out right. Now I know time was an issue in general because it was 10 hours. You guys were sleep deprived. Everybody was, strung out. Did you have much time to start looking at everybody's builds until the end, or was it really the only time you got to see them is when it said time's up, and now let's all look together?
So when we were building, I was, every now and then you have to come up for air, as it were. And you stop up, and most of the time my eyes are directed directly across from us at Caleb and Jacob because they also have floating island, and we're trying to make sure our island is a little better than their floating island. And we were also paying attention to Zach and Wayne, and also Dave and Richard on the end there. Dave and Richard were having a little bit of trouble early on. They ended up pulling it together very nicely. But and so we actually, and we also saw a lot of Marie and Philip. So we were seeing some builds, but not all of them. For example, we barely saw Natalie Michelle's build until watching it tonight. And we didn't really see a lot of Jen and Susan or Reynolds.
Brian and Lauren.
And Brian and Lauren.
Hardly saw that build. They were on the other side of the room.
There's a couple people we were paying attention to for specific reasons or proximity reasons, and some of them we just didn't see. I mean, we just didn't have time to go over and look at them. So.
Yeah.
It was kind of scary. We sort of got a chance to look around.
Yeah, because it seems like the time is. It just seems like even from season 1 to season 2, the time for the builds has gotten much shorter overall, which is even more mind-racking to think about trying to get things done and what you guys have been doing. So,
and that's a function of COVID and stuff like that too. Because y'all had a shorter shooting schedule and more teams, right?
Third less time and 2 more teams.
Yeah.
So I was chatting with Moto, I don't know, last week or the week before, and he said for himself that he was getting back to the room at 9 p.m. and the wake up was at 4 because people had to do hair and makeup before you can even start. And I said 4 a.m. He's like, yeah, that's why I was tired. And he said Paris had like an hour of emails to answer from his job. So he said, I went to bed, but Paris had to go back and do work for an hour.
Some teams did.
Yeah.
That's I mean, isn't that like against the Geneva Convention or something like that?
I wish it was.
I mean, that's kind of hardcore.
We actually looked it up.
I mean, I know that I work late. I work some late, weird hours where I'm going to bed at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and somebody's like, "Hey, can you be on a call at 8 a.m.?" And I'm like, "No."
Yeah,
you didn't have that option.
We couldn't say no.
Yeah, let's say you can't go to Lego Masters. Go, no, I'm not feeling it today. I'll see you tomorrow.
You show up.
Yeah.
All right. So, Peanut Gallery, we got any other questions and thoughts and comments? Otherwise, we're going to start talking about the Boone commercial.
Did y'all? I don't know if y'all. Yeah. Did they like review? I mean, y'all may have talked about this. Did they say how much weight that wire actually would hold?
No idea.
And if the initial brick broke, was that too bad for y'all?
So I did ask about the wire. It was a steel cable, I think, and it had like a weight limit of 800 pounds or something, or 1,000 pounds or something. You'd be surprised how strong a wire that small can be.
Yeah.
So they weren't worried at all, and
it's
so
a
we
steel cable, not a string. So it looks like it's thin and weak, but you could hang yourself on that if you wanted to.
But the brick was the wire was looped through the Technic holes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
so
but that wire
makes part of that brick right there, right?
The wire made a loop, so if that brick broke, the wire would still hold, even if your stuff was attached right. So the brick breaking or not, and as far as I know, none of the bricks actually broke or even
I don't think
got
they were even
close.
damaged.
So yeah.
Trust in the brick. Trust in the brick.
And Jamie gave that little commercial. That was pretty funny. He's like, "Yo, look at the quality of our product.
Love our brick.
This isn't a commercial, Jamie. Hello, Lego Masters. Yeah,
Kind of is.
the whole show is a commercial for Lego. Yeah. Okay.
So I have a follow up on that. So I needed to call Lego Bricks customer service today because I had some random bricks and pieces order go back to them as undeliverable, and I'm like, I haven't moved in 4 years. It's the same address. Anyway, I'm talking to the woman on the support line, and I said, "So has anything changed for you with the Lego Masters show being on the air?" She's like, "Oh yeah," and I said, "Oh, what kind of things?" And she goes, "People are calling up wanting to order the sets that they see on the show." She goes, "I have to break it to them that these are not for sale."
They need to capitalize on that.
There
I think they should make an inspired model from each of y'all.
Yeah, there needs to be the Lego Masters line, and it's just sets designed by Lego Master contestants. That'd be cool. I love it.
Miniature versions of some of the ones that won.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I know, Marcus, even you guys have been doing micro builds of yours, and I know that's exactly what Tyler did, as he did micro builds of his, because and the way he described it is that because now those builds belong to Fox, and you really can't rebuild them again because it's now intellectual property of Fox, but you can build something homage to it.
Yeah,
Satire.
Yeah, the rules are a tad vague, but yes, they own the exact model.
Well, yeah, they own all the pictures and all the footage of it, so you would have to use that with permission. In like a blog-like style, you could do that, or
Can't sell
featuring it.
pictures of it.
But you can't sell any pictures of it, and they don't want you rebuilding it brick for brick and trying to somehow make money off of that. So
Right.
Where can people find the smaller versions?
Oh, on our social medias, it's Mark Falworth anywhere. Google it, and then Brother Steven 100 on Instagram, and then Brother Steven on Twitter.
I haven't been a micro build in a while though. I'm still on the tower, so I'm really embarrassed about that. But hopefully, I can get a few more. We're trying to build for Brick Fair. So,
Mark, are Steven, are you feeling like now is where you're like, I wish I had chose a different, more recognizable Instagram name?
You like Brother Steven?
Steven. Yeah.
You don't like Brother Steven or Bro Steven?
Bro Steven 100, Brother Steven 100.
Brother Steven was taken on Instagram for some stupid reason, but I've had Brother Steven for forever, and it's actually pretty recognizable, I'd say. Although his gets searced more, I'll just say that.
It's
Well, I
okay.
love
Dana
the 100.
he's
I love
not
the
fucking-
100 at the end of it. That's my favorite part.
All I can do.
What was that, Chris? You were chest. I think you were just slamming.
Yes, Dana doesn't internet real well. It's okay.
No, I don't. I work in technology, so I automatically have a handicap towards doing the internet. So
It does that www stuff.
yeah. Oh, God. HTTP, PHP. Yeah.
How do I open the email?
On Twitch.
All right. So we have any other questions for Mark and Steven? Otherwise, let's talk about that crazy Boone commercial. Is Boone? Is he pandering to the? Is he sold out?
Warner Brothers, yeah.
Dude, if Lego and Fox come to you and say, "Hey, will you build something for a commercial and we'll pay you money?" Would you go like, "I'm selling out"? I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I'm gonna be on TV as well.
Make it rain.
I expect Boone's Lego room to look much better after this.
I was multitasking. I was multitasking and doing some things, so I knew the commercial break was coming up and walking away, and I'm walking into the kitchen, and all of a sudden I hear Boone's voice, and I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, I turn around, I'm like, "He's not on season 2."
Well, now he is. Yeah.
That was an unexpected surprise. I don't know if the general population is going to feel like how cool that was, but I think AFOLs were probably losing their minds at that point in time and just excited. So
Anyone who saw season 1.
yeah.
That was super cool.
So I'm assuming you guys didn't know anything about that. Is that a correct statement?
No, not a clue.
Okay, so that was just as exciting for you guys as
We
well.
just thought
We were like, Boone? What are you doing on
No, we're gonna have to definitely the next time we get Boone in the stream, we're gonna have to start pelting him with questions for that one because that was just a fantastic surprise to come up. So
Yeah, it was cool.
we will invite you guys if you want to join us when we get Boone for that one because that'll be a fun conversation. Because I'm sure there's got to be huge amounts of technical questions for that one. Did he build that? I mean, it looks like he built it. Did he
Looks
just
like he at least was putting his hands on it and working with
But
it?
he made the budget function at the top.
right? I mean, he was doing the whole green screen. Here comes Tweetbird coming through and standing there in front of all those bricks. But the question is, did he get to build everything, or is somebody helping him, or what's the guy? Because I know, I know there was one of the, and I forget his name because I'm horrible with names. But he's one of the brick builder designers guys, and he's the one who was doing a lot of the behind the scenes work for
Nathan,
the city tech stuff.
What was Zawada?
The what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was. I was reading an article where he was talking about the fact that when they did season 1, if they had a problem or something they needed to build, they could have somebody build it in his studio, which is down the street, and just have it wheeled into the Fox studio, and boom, they were good to go. And now that they filmed it in Atlanta, he didn't have access to his studio being able to bring things in and pull it all and take, how that kind of stuff. So it'll be curious to see, did Boone get to build that? And I hope that he did. I really hope that was something he got to build.
They had Jamie and Amy right there.
Oh, they're on vacation.
Well, they were busy. They were working hard.
Jamie and Amy weren't building too much.
No, well, a tiny bit, but hardly anything.
Wait, so they would build too sometimes, or what?
No, they would actually. You didn't remember, but I don't know why I haven't played any of them. But sometimes Jamie and Amy sometimes would sneak away and grab a few parts for some sort of example they were giving to the camera about some technique that they might want to fill in later.
Okay.
So yeah, I actually bumped into Jamie a handful of times. I had to break that and be like, "Oh, it's Jamie over there. How you doing, man? Like,
Supposed to be here."
So I was like, okay, like a master's. So that happened every now and then, but it was like every 2 episodes, 3, just a little thing,
tiny snippets.
Yeah.
So I do have to. How jarring is it? I mean, when Amy and Jamie come up and talk about your build, I mean, you're doing the nerd thing and you're getting all crafty in there and you're talking that. When Will comes up,
completely different.
How distracting was that? Because I mean, you've got to switch gears in your brain to talk to Will. How confused? How hard was that?
Okay, so at first you're like, "Oh my gosh, Will Arnett's talking to me," and then by once you get to episode, what is it, 5 now? You're like, "Oh no, here comes Will." Now I gotta stop. 40 minutes. So, oh hey Will, yeah, we're building. What's your joke? Oh ha ha. It was fun, but at the same time, it was actually like, okay, now we gotta just put down the bricks for 40 minutes and pretend to be really engaged. So yeah,
because it's not like they stopped the clock for you guys while you're talking to Will. You had to keep building and talking at the same time.
Everyone got an interview whether they used it or not, though.
So everybody got the same handicap, but still, it was time off of your build time.
Exactly. Yeah. It was a little bit annoying, but also difficult because we're all just blasted and just trying to build. And when I get into a real build zone mode, it's like I don't feel like talking or being witty. It's like you're really focused. So it was a little bit distracting. At the same time, it was fun to just be around Will Arnett. The only time we really got to really chat with him was when the cameras were really
I will say though, the most annoying thing for me, real quick, was I usually built on the opposite side of the table of Mark, right? Because we have long arms and we want elbow room, and we make a mess too. But every time you do an interview, whether it's Amy, Jamie, or Will, they want you on the same side of the table. So I'd have to pick up some of my stuff and move over. I'm like, all right, so I'm bumping into Mark.
Doesn't matter if you're working on that side of the build. You have to now work on this side.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, no matter what's going on. So it's like, guys, please, other side of the table. I'm like, oh, fine, all right, guys. Sorry.
So did they have to do that? Did they do that to? Did you? I mean, you could probably only see with the people around you, but did everybody else have to go through that same kind of scenario where they're like, "Hey, move over here and build because we need to film this"? Kind of
yeah, everyone. Yeah, it was very annoying.
That was annoying.
TV magic.
But Will's a funny guy. I'm not gonna lie, he's pretty funny.
I want to know if Fox is going to be sued though for stealing another show's line when they said "make it work." I'm like, really, people? Project Runway.
I don't know about that.
Single episode. I'm like, Lifetime's going to be calling him up like lawsuit.
I mean, did they have to, like, when they would say it on Project Runway, would they have to say copyrighted at the end or something like that? I mean, because then they would have.
But Tim Gunn, who's like the show host, like literally says it every single episode. It's like 8 seasons. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, hey, they're stealing Tim Gunn's tagline.
Trust me, nobody who's watching the Lego show, other than probably some of the gay folk community, would even catch that reference whatsoever.
Oh, you think female builders don't watch Project Runway sometimes?
Well, or husbands that have been dragged into watching Project Runway. You never know.
Oh man.
Project Runway actually reminded me of being at college in design and doing jury, where you have your render of whatever product when I was industrial design, and then having your professor run you down in front of everybody. And so when Mel watched Project Runway, when we were watching it, I was like, I would watch it for that, because I'm like, yeah, I want somebody else to get the crap beat out of them for TV. That's great. Let me just let that happen. So,
because we know that your favorite comedy is when people get, trampled on or dropping things, physical comedy.
Tornadoes.
Fart jokes.
So violent with Chris up there.
fart jokes. I like fart jokes.
Well, they go right along with dad jokes, so it's like
they usually accompany the real farts, and dad jokes usually happen in the same.
Exactly. All right,
I brought the show down. Great.
Yeah, way to pause our comment here. So
I have a question.
Please, because I'm running out of steam here.
Was there anything like this week that got cut that was kind of interesting? That are we what could have been if there was another 30 minutes of show that we didn't get to see on camera?
I know exactly.
So there's also, not only are we building for like that duration on camera, we're also building off camera with the clock actually running. And during that off camera build time for this episode, Randall actually had a pretty serious injury to his leg. I think it was his right leg.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically pulled a hamstring.
He slipped on a cord.
Oh, yeah, no. because they turn off the lights,
most of them,
when they go off camera. And so they brought up these little lamps and stuff to try and light the tables, because I was complaining because I can't see in the dark.
Yeah, he's got
newsflash. Anyway, so they
wait, you guys were required, you had to build in the dark?
Sometimes we did, because there were union laws around the camera guys,
the lights guys,
and the lights
had already
guys
gone
too.
home, and they had to leave all the stuff off. So
because no one else would know how to turn them off.
So, but I'm like, dude, I can't see in the dark.
Yeah, I'm surprised you forgot to tell you about this. This is what happened, because Randall, he slipped on a cord, and there were some power cords leading out.
Yeah,
they had some other industrial lights too. So
and they warned us, don't run and don't step over the cords, and he did, and he got hurt. And so
they're all black,
basically his foot rolled over the cord, and he just kind of.
Yeah, so he was in a boot. If you look closely, he was in a boot
for the judging,
for the whole judging.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Oh, now I have to go back and watch it. You just did that so we can get more viewership. I just gotta watch it.
Gotta check it out on Hulu or on your DVR or whatever.
So I mean, seriously, what I'm walking away with this evening is that sleep deprivation, overworking hours, being required to work with Will Arnett yammering at you, and then also having to work in the dark and jump over cables that are black on a black floor.
Not live for.
Man, this is like Cutthroat Kitchen at this point in time. I mean, it's
really Survivor Lego edition.
Yeah, it really was Survivor. There were great moments, but it was really hard, guys. Yeah.
That definitely there is added stress factors galore going on here. Chris, I think we seriously dodged multiple bullets.
I am so glad we are ugly and white and didn't make it on the show.
And we can 9 o'clock armchair quarterback this whole scenario here. So, but
right.
So we're coming down to the wire here. I know we started probably about 5 minutes after, but trying to keep things for whatever's going to start at 10 o'clock. I gotta say again, called it in the middle of the show. I'm like, these guys have got it this time. I was so excited. I think Mark, I sent you a text as soon as like, I called it. So excited to have you guys on here this evening with us and let us drill you with some questions and listen to us yammer with this. So I'm excited to see next week Cars, Battle Royale, almost like Robot Wars. It's what it seems like it's going to kind of be. So that's going to be fun. I'm excited to see that. So hopefully, if you guys can round out again,
skipping a week again.
What the?
Oh, is it another bye week?
Got an email today that said, "Hey, it's not happening next week."
It's All-Star week. The All-Star game's on next week.
That silly sports ball stuff getting involved with our regular television.
I forgot about that. This is a funny one too. Oh man.
Now, is it a two-parter where you did two different bills, or is it just all the cards?
Yeah,
All right.
you'll see.
We'll see. All right. I'm sorry.
They can't say.
There looks like lots of cars.
But there's head going. We'll see it.
There's an NDA, I'm sure.
Yeah, they've already. I've seen that shot collar light up a couple of times when they got close to the edge. And
All right, cool. So we will save if you guys kind of come back and we'll chit chat so again, because I think that we would have some definitely questions on that one because there's going to be a lot of weird technical stuff going on there. Different change from some we've seen in the past. So I'm excited for it. So any party questions for the boys before we close the shop up?
Sky's the limit.
No.
Hope you win.
I hope we do well.
Thank you.
you guys are my ride or die.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I just as we're walking away, you know, we talked briefly, barely touched on the fact that you guys had the golden brick.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Now,
Was
is
it
it really?
Was it
Really
really
one of the
shiny
lacquered,
as
the
on
lacquered
TV?
golden bricks?
It was really chromed out. Like it's a brand new chrome piece, so it was really
It's actually a
nice.
tan 2x4 underneath.
It's tan
inside,
2x4.
you flip it over, faded area of tan, and then so they just chromed it gold. It's really nice.
And so there's a grip out back shaking up some Krylon going, all right, hang on.
It was nice.
It was nicer than spray paint, but it was still like they painted this very nicely.
Yeah, it was really good though. But it was really amazing just to take it out of Will's hand because we weren't even allowed to shake his hand, so I got to like just take it out of his hand.
So
Like,
that was the closest
yeah.
you were touching him, is what you were saying.
Yeah, it was weird, but I'm like, wow, it was just, I don't know. It was like we were all in the moment. It was amazing.
So now we at least last one more episode.
Mhm.
At least, because we know,
right?
yeah, we know you've got at least a get out of jail free card. So from my perspective, we see you at least 2 more episodes as a given. As a given.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
In theory. So
Yeah,
theoretically,
at minimum 2 more episodes,
But no spoilers.
but no spoilers.
Spoilers.
It could only be 3 episodes because you could actually do well next week and then use the brick of the following week and then get to come back for 1 more week. So worst case scenario, you're only on for 3 more, but we're hoping for more than that. So, all right. So gang, thanks for hanging out with us. I didn't do the good job that Chris or Julian does about calling out people in the Peanut Gallery, Brick Bunnies TV, Axle Plate. I think I saw your guys' mom in there. Hope Castle's in there. Brick Bunny TVs. Thanks for hanging out with us. Please come back again. Enjoy Pink Bucket Nation when they're on, and for Zoom for us and that. Space.
And Lego's Ultimate Builds tomorrow.
Ultimate Bills tomorrow, and then our show on Thursday. So show up.
Absolutely. And as Matthew's pointing out, that's all, folks.
That's
Mark,
all.
you can go ahead and kill us. Oh, look, we got
Cat butt. I saw cat butt. Cat butt.